Ladies and gentlemen, we are now live.
Thank you. The time is now 7:34 p.m. and the executive session has been concluded. The participants in the executive session were myself, Mayor Pro Tem Barney, Trustee Barella, Trustee Birma, Trustee Uyghur, Trustee Harper, Trustee George, Administrator Koshberger, Clerk Freeze, Deputy Clerk Baxter, Sheriff Conrad, and Attorney Whitmore. To correct for the record, the section reference for the executive session is CRS section 24.6.402 section 4D, specialized details of security arrangements or investigations, including defenses against terrorism, both domestic and foreign, and including where disclosure of the matters discussed might reveal information that could be used for the purpose of committing or avoiding prosecution for a violation of the law. For the record, if any person who participated in the executive session believes that any substantial discussion of any matters not included in the motion to go into the executive session or that any improper action occurred during the executive session in violation of the open meetings law, I would ask that you state your concerns for the record. Seeing none, we will now move on to the next agenda item in our regular meeting. Administrator Koshberger, did we have any other revisions to the agenda this evening?
No, that is all.
Okay. Anyone else? So now we will have our first public comment period. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes in duration. Please announce yourself at the beginning of your comment. And as a reminder, public comment period is intended to be one person at a time. We'll start with in-person comments if anyone that's here would like to speak. And then we'll follow that with Zoom participant comments.
Oh, shoot, I'll go. I'm going to speak a little fast because I'm struck for time. Ian Tanner, third generation Silverton resident. I am here this evening to stand in defense of my community and the members that live therein. I'm here to stand in defense of my home. There is a snake in our grass. I do not enjoy that fact. I would rather those words never come out of my mouth, and I would rather be doing practically anything else than having to stand up against a fraud and a snake thief in our community. A man moved to town and with the first stroke of his pen, attempted to sell us to the highest bidders with the investment plan you all know as the Selwyn. This is our home, not your get-rich-quick scheme. To this man, Silverton is an investment opportunity before a community. To this man, Silverton is a bankroll before a sanctuary. To this man, Silverton is a means to an end instead of a home. He and the money grubbers he rolls with would turn our unique home into another generic sellout vacation spot for the uber rich and the overprivileged. He has dissected and dismantled the beautiful and historic. He would demolish the blue collar working class of our town, for where will we live if he has his way, if our homes are sold out from underneath us, if our home values and property taxes go so high that we can't live here. He thrives off of giving you just enough truth to get you to believe his lies. He would have our community and state and nation believe him to be a forward-thinking freedom fighter that stands up against oppression. He stands on soapbox after soapbox of free thought when I have never even heard a whisper of any other philanthropic outlet that wasn't based in his own profit and personal agenda. He tells you just enough to get you to think he's a good man. He is a master of sleight of hand in speech and wordplay. 5 weeks ago on May 24th in a town board meeting, he rode again his horse of lies, claiming respect for our democracy. And at 1 hour and 19 minutes, he said he expected the respect for the freedom of expression regarding the Pledge of Allegiance, not only for himself, but for all involved. Then just 3 weeks later on June 14th, he turned around and unilaterally took that right and liberty away from not only our town board, but also the whole public entity present in person and via the internet, making a mockery of democracy. He is a liar and a fraud. He is a hypocrite taking advantage of our town. He is in that mayoral seat solely for the clout it offers in the investment community that he cares more about, and for the opportunity for publicity. To be clear, because those of you know me and know that I speak exactly what I believe. Is the Pledge of Allegiance jingoistic? Absolutely. Is the phrase under God that was added in 1954 a violation of our constitutional law for separation of church and state? Without a doubt. But would I ever divide our home and quite literally put our town employees in danger just to make that point? Never. Let me say that again, fur baby. Never. He claims to be a pillar of our community. You are no pillar, Furman. You are divisive. You are a perfect example of how the children of our community, or any community for that matter, should not be. You are a sellout and a swine. We have stood by long enough and watched you pompously swing your scythe through our town with no regard whatsoever for what it will actually do to our future. When your partner in crime flips me the bird, that New York City bird a few weeks ago, it was like getting 2 thumbs up, a kiss on the cheek, and a hug and a handshake all at once from Mother Earth. So do me a favor and tell her I said thank you. Go sell someone else's hometown.
Thank you, Ian. Any other public comment?
Hi,
name is Julian Roberts. I actually don't have any real note cards. I was trying to figure out what exactly I had to say, so I brought this White Cat's Paint book. First off, I just want to say I'm deeply, deeply sorry to every single one of you who is present through this ungodly display of nationalism and debauchery that has ensued inside of our own community. I think first and foremost, we are a community that is of ourselves. We are of these mountains. We are of each other. And the fact that we are now facing threats from an external force inside of our community is the true issue at odds here. The fact that we can no longer focus on the things that actually make our town run, that make our town function, that make our community actually what it is. The issues that are going to be facing our great grandchildren, those are the things that we have to be focusing on. As if we continue to go down this route of divisive national politics, whether or not you are on the receiving or giving end of that, whether or not you are making a stand just because you believe it's like the right thing to do, or because you think it's, well, the right thing to do, it's irrelevant. It's absolutely irrelevant information. What we should be saying, we should be singing the Silverton song at the beginning of every single meeting. That is what we should be singing, because every single one of us here is Silvertonians first. Silvertonians first. You are my family. I've said it before, and I've said it in love, and now I say it in anger because of this external force. You are my family, and if there's anyone outside of this community listening, that is who I will fight for, and that is who every single one of these people in this room will fight for the 650 people that occupy these mountains right now. And if you step on that, if you tread on that, that is where we draw the line. Silverton is a community of itself, not of, we're isolated, period. We are of itself. Thank you.
Evening, trustees and mayor, Deanne Gallegos, and I am just speaking as a citizen this evening. First and foremost, I know what the town staff has gone through. I know what my staff has gone through. I know what I have gone through. The hate is immense and real and scary. And what I would love to tell the world outside of this bubble is this is our home. This is our issue. And this is our dysfunction to turn into function, which we're good at. We've done it before, you guys. The opinions, the hate, the rage, the screaming at us, the threats, it's us soldiers on the ground who actually interface with the public at large that have had to do that. And that's what we're going to do. And we're going to get through that. It's not going to be the last time that we ruffle feathers. If you've never ruffled feathers, you've never stood up for anything. But I do want to speak as a person, as an independent. And what does independent mean? Independent of mind, independent of opinion, independent of politics, and just independent in not wanting to be pulled from far left or far right. We've been traumatized in our national politics for 4 years, and we're finally seeing the gush filter down to our little hamlet. But it's more painful. It's more saddening. It's more personal when it's us. And you guys were elected as leaders for our community. And to watch the dysfunction is also painful, but I do see that as some of the reflection of our national government. And so I had to ask my day, what does that mean to be in the middle? Us that are stuck in the middle, that don't want to get pulled far left, that don't want to get pulled far right. What about us? It's kind of like a really bad divorce, to be honest. It's like as kids are just traumatized by all the bickering and the fighting and the not coming together and not crossing aisles, even in this little building. We've seen it on a national level. That's fine. And that was painful. But to see it here in our own building is not okay. but I have a heart and compassion for you. I have heart and compassion for this community. And it made me start to think, all right, Deanne, what are the positives? And I came up with all the C words, right? Community. What does that really mean? That means me, you, and you. It means all of us, guys. We are a community together. And that means coming together. That means coming together with you guys as leadership and then showing us by example. It also means compromise. And most importantly, it means compassion. To have compassion for each other, to have compassion for this community. But last and most important is to actually celebrate. To celebrate that you guys came together on Thursday, and I will finish. That you came together on Thursday and you actually did discuss the issues that are facing our community. And to celebrate this amazing town staff you guys have. And the most important to me that I have seen has been the amazing administrator that you guys placed in that seat. It is Gloria who turns on the lights. It is Gloria who's going to make this place run. And with her troops, she needs you guys. She just got here. We really need you guys to step up and think about community. Who cares what they say outside of this bubble? I know I don't. And I've been getting screamed at, and I'll take it again. But let's celebrate. Let's celebrate each other, our differences, our fabric that we can agree to disagree. We can't do that civilly anymore. So thank you, Administrator Graceful, for holding your head high this last week. It's been tough, and I know it. So thank you.
Thank you, Deanne. Gary, would you like to speak?
No, thank you.
Okay. Moving to Zoom. If you are a Zoom participant and you would like to public comment, please click the raise hand button and we will promote you to panelist. All right, seeing no public comment via Zoom, we will move on to our next agenda item. Public comment is now closed. Tonight, we do not have any presentations or proclamations, so we'll move to 4A, new business discussion on meeting protocols. There are 3 meeting protocols that I've been thinking about that I would like for us to discuss tonight, and I welcome others as well. The first is, of course, how we open our meetings. The second would be a request to consider removing the formal titles during our discussion so that we can refer to each other as by our first names, or perhaps choose our own preference for how we're referred to. And then the third thing would be considering adding public comment to specific agenda items during the meeting that may be more timely for having the public comment rather than only at the beginning and the end. It wouldn't be for everything, but it'd be for specific items where we know the public is.
So you mean during the meeting, we'll have it at the beginning still, but then we'll also have public comment during the meeting about issues.
Certain issues that pop up. And so those are the 3 items that I would request that we discuss tonight.
I think we do that for things during the first reading or the second reading? Typically?
That's a different thing.
Okay, but we did it for the OHV thing.
So those are during, it's not a trial, a public hearing. A public hearing.
Okay.
Yes.
Look at that.
You Trustee Weaver. All right, so let's hit the elephant in the room first. How would we like, as a board, to open our meetings?
I would like to continue to say the Pledge of Allegiance. We voted on it before, and I really still think it's something supposed to be patriotic. It's supposed to bring us together as a community. It's not supposed to be a divisive issue. It's supposed to just be something that we've all learned it. We all know it. We all say it. If you don't want to say the words under God, you don't have to. That was McCarthyism. We all know that. It was printed on our money at that time too. So that's the individual choice of religion as well. You don't have to use it. And I do completely agree with first name basis. None of us are any better than any of the other person in the room. And using our first names brings us back to a little bit more of that community feel and that community basis. Just because we were elected doesn't mean we're above anybody else. I like my name. My name is Molly. I prefer to be called Molly. I do not like Trustee Barella, although I know in some certain fashion, I mean, it's okay to address each other that way. But my name is Molly, and I'm here to talk to Jordan and Jess and Sally and Shane and Tyler and Jim. And I talk to Nate and Kelly the same way. So because we are a community, and that does really bring in a little bit more. If it's formality, then maybe in the opening of the meeting, I don't know if it's a very important, but I like my name being Molly.
Thank you.
And then I'll expound on the last one. The meeting protocol used to be that when the subject came up, individuals would be allowed to kind of voice their opinion in reference to that item on the agenda. So it's no different than when we let, Sheriff Conrad, just because he's here, when he would come up and say something, even though it wasn't during public comment, because he had a useful comment and or suggestion that needed to be heard during the discussion. So I know that all got, that the previous board, prior to me getting on, Jess was still on it, that was kind of removed because things can get a little toxic and caustic and whatever else that lovely phrase says. But by doing that, you actually put context into people's comments when they come. Somebody wants to tell you something about something directly, and they're stifled during our discussion, and yet it might be so pertinent. So we can limit it the same way to 3 minutes, however the board wants to discuss to do it, but it really does create a better context, in my opinion. And I'm done. Thank you. Jess might have more to say because he was in that when they changed the protocol.
I think to Molly's point also, if we just do a good job of explaining that at the beginning of the meeting. So, because I know sometimes somebody will have public comment that's for something further down the agenda. And I'm scribbling notes furiously and then trying to remember what they say. So if we can just, make sure that everybody knows if your comment is pertinent to something on the agenda, you can wait. That way we don't have to duplicate it or listen to it twice. And then, it's fresh in our heads when we're getting ready to discuss whatever we're going to discuss. So.
Well, I remember initially we used to just have public comment right at the beginning. And then, like you said, there really was not a whole lot of context when people had something relevant that they wanted to speak about. So that's why we began to add it at the end of the meeting too. Like Molly has said, that's the way that they used to do it. But I think they found that the meetings ran more efficiently when they could limit the public comment to a certain section.
Right. I could see that turning into more lengthy meetings.
I've thought about that as well. And I think a compromise would be having specific items that we know the public wants to weigh in on, that we note in the agenda will have public comment periods, rather than having it be open for any agenda item on any meeting, so that we don't have interruptions throughout every meeting.
It was also an attempt to keep the audience more civil as well, because when they feel like they have the freedom to just speak out whenever talking about something, then they'll just shout whatever they want. Whereas if you limit them in a public comment period, then they have to prepare, and we hear some great orations. As far as the formality of addressing each other by trustees, I remember when we implemented this as well at a retreat, and it was just simply an effort to, again, discussion more civil, more formal, just allow more courteous discussions. But if this current board is fine with passing that out and going back to informal, as long as we keep it civil, I'm fine with that. I really don't understand why we would change the way that we have been starting our meetings in the past. I think a pledge of allegiance is a great thing to say. If people don't want to say it, that's fine. That's your right. We've had trustees in the past who didn't want to recite it, and that's fine. But I think we need to just think about what kind of impacts this decision has had for the community, our staff, and really ask ourselves if it's really worth it. Do we need this right now?
Thank you, Justin.
I mean, I guess on a few things. I'm also okay for more important, I'll just work backwards, more important issues. Having that public comment time, during that issues discussion, I think that makes sense. And I'm also fine going, I guess, to the informal references for names. Could also call me Cool Cat if you want. I'd be okay with that.
Is that with a K or a C?
There's a little tense in this room right now. But I also like Julian's idea. I like the Silverton song. I don't think it's going to gain traction, but no, my idea for it's tough. I see what everyone's saying. I know I have the option to choose how I want to represent myself at the beginning of meetings. And right now I feel like my option is to go along with the crowd or get threatened. Those don't seem like good options to me. I do see potential for a compromise, maybe prior to the call to order and roll call at 6:50. We have, optional show up, you do the Pledge of Allegiance, start the meeting if you'd like to, and beginning, and we can start our meeting at 7 on the dot and just get to work after that. I mean, that's really the important part of this, is that we're accomplishing these things that we're setting out to do to help our community. Our goal is to make Silverton a better place. It's really what it comes down to.
I want to speak to one more thing. So I like what you had to say about it needs to be structured for the public comment. So I don't know, let's just, I don't know, let me get to one. I don't know, somebody find me one.
Wastewater
Okay,
overview with
there
John
we go.
Sides.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's a riveting
So-
topic.
It actually is, but we make the sign up sheet available and the people that sign up to make a comment directly related to that subject at that time. I don't know, I think that would be a pretty good compromise, that they go and write their name down for that segment. And that way we can keep it, like Jess said, we can keep it more orderly. But it's pertaining directly to that. I would think it would need to be at the beginning of it rather than at the end, because a lot of our decisions are going to be based on what we're hearing, as well as what the staff has already delineated for us. So I think that's a really good way to compromise on that one, that you would have, I don't know, would that be a really difficult thing, Kelly? No? Okay. As long as staff thinks that that's be managed. I really like that idea.
It's already working. Tyler and Marsali. We haven't implemented this process yet. So,
But several years ago, this sign did say what's your name and what do you want to address.
Oh, thank you, Gary.
Now it does.
Okay. So I think kind of working backwards in a little bit, like Trustee Bierma, I think It seems like the theme of meeting protocols is to bring civility to the meetings and productivity. So I remember meetings when we were reading, or I wasn't a trustee at the time, but trustees recited these civility protocols, same as the titles. And I think if the purpose of these kind of rituals is to promote civility, it's not working, obviously. This has not been a civil week for us. It hasn't been civil towards staff. It hasn't been civil towards local residents of Silverton. And so I think what we're trying to solve here is like, how do we create a meeting protocol that promotes civility? So that's what I'm in favor of. I think I have no problem if that's to start the Pledge of Allegiance. My problem is that for people who want to sit for the pledge, it's what Trustee Bierma said. It's choosing to go along with the crowd or feeling threatened or harassed for that decision. And I don't think that that's civil. So regardless of what it is, like if we wanted to all just come in here and recite the Cat in the Hat and it got really loud and disruptive and silly, I would say that the Cat in the Hat is not a great way to start our meetings either, because it's not promoting an efficient and effective format in our time together. So I've struggled with this issue because it's just not the Cat in the Hat. That would be really simple. That's not wrapped up in how patriotic are you? How much do you love our country? All of the sort of more national attention that comes along with the Pledge of Allegiance. And that's very disruptive. That's making us not effective. I have struggled with the Pledge of Allegiance because I don't know if you've been watching me carefully. I've gone back and forth on Zoom with showing my video or not showing my video. I haven't felt comfortable to sit down for it in this environment. And now I know why, because it is really intense to make that decision. And that was just not the kind of attention that I wanted. And I don't know if says much about my character or not, but that's my thought process on how I got to where I am now. So I think whether we do formal names or the pledge or public input, whatever we're doing, our end goal is the same. Our end goal is civility and productivity. And so I'm trying to balance the right of people to sit for the pledge around this table, for people who want to do that or say it in the way that feels true and authentic to them, and not create more attention to the subject, because I just, I don't think that our ability to stand or our willingness to stand and say the pledge has much bearing on the decisions that we make as local officials. And we're about to hear about the water sewer treatment plant, and I'm having a hard time knowing like how patriotic I am affects like how I understand the sewage treatment plant here in Silverton. So I am comfortable with making adaptations to our agenda so long as we move forward and get on with the work. I just don't want our local community to become some battleground for a national war that people are fighting that I don't want to participate in. And I'd like to get some work done here. And I don't want people to feel pressured to stand or not stand, or I don't want to have a conversation about the pledge so much as I want to have a conversation about farmers market and the sewage treatment plant. So that's really kind of a non-answer to all of that, but that's where I stand.
Thank you. Jim or Tyler?
Yeah. As far as I already addressed the last one. I think that's fine. Formal titles can go first name basis. That's fine with me. As far as the pledge goes, I think we can stand for the pledge and recite it at the beginning of meetings, but I feel like if there's, like Sally said, we're here to get work done. We're here to be productive. And if we continue to have outbursts regarding how anybody on this board chooses to honor the pledge, because that's their First Amendment right. I've heard a lot of talk about First Amendment rights over the last week and how a whole group of people's was violated, but it all began because two people here were using their First Amendment right and then were threatened because of it. And so if that continues and people can't honor it going both ways, then I think we need to revisit it. I think we can bring it back and we can stand and say the pledge, and those that want to sit, please sit. And if the people that come and attend the meeting, if it causes too much anger for you to see people exercise their First Amendment right and not stand for the flag, then I think that you should excuse yourself from the meeting. And as far as the other portion, which I keep hearing is, I've seen a lot of emails saying that, those who sit for the pledge or those who sat when the crowd stood up to say the pledge, we hate America. We obviously don't. We're serving on a town board for next to nothing, trying to do the absolute best job we can. And we're volunteering lots of hours. I mean, if that doesn't prove that we love our country and love our small town, then I don't know what to tell you. Also, we took an oath when we took this position saying that we were going to honor and uphold the laws of the United States. And, it's a lot of, there was a lot of hate based on what stemmed from people exercising their First Amendment right. So I think that we can go back to doing the pledge. I stand for the pledge, but I feel like if there's more disruption and if people can't honor other members on this board's decision, then we're going to have to revisit it. And then I will be in favor of taking it off of the agenda. It hasn't been historically on the agenda here. That is not true. We only started doing it less than a decade ago. No meeting place in this town has said the Pledge of Allegiance for longer than a decade. And I will be happy to vote to return to that if we can't have decorum in the chamber while we're saying the pledge or while people are not saying the pledge. So I was really upset that certain people felt like their First Amendment rights were being trampled, and it sort of stemmed from people on this board's First Amendment right not being respected. So that's where I stand on it.
Thank you.
I want to work backwards as well. Number 3 was a question about public comment during meetings. I'm all for it. I'm for dialogue. I'm for true communication between the public and this board. That's what we've needed since day one. So I say bring it on. The more interaction we have with the folks up here and the folks at home and in our audience, the better we are as a community. Number 2, informal meetings. I'm all about it. Bring it on. My name is short. It's got 3 letters. It's Jim. That's it. Number 1, the Pledge of Allegiance. We talk about community. In my opinion, the pledge is community. I was asked last week, why? Why would I say that? The United States is a melting pot. Silverton is a melting pot. How many true Silvertonians are left? How many? We come from every walk of life, every background there is, and the one common denominator besides our community of Silverton is that we all live under the flag, and we all live under the constitutional rights that were given to us and fought for us by men and women. It is community because out of many comes one. This one board represents this one community. And it is about dialogue. It's about communication. It's about loving your neighbor, your friends, everything. It's not about being self-serving or what have you. I stand for the pledge because of the bag I brought in tonight. I don't know if you can see this at home. Everyone here on the board can see this. This is my father. From 1967 to 1971, he served during the Vietnam era as a captain in the United States Air Force. That's why I stand. He gave his time, his fortune, just like our founding fathers, just like each and every one of us up here. He stood up for this country. He stood up for our rights, and I stand up for him. And I respect those that don't. I respect those that do, because this man and others like him stood up for each and every one of us. That's why I do it. That's my representation of this community, is standing as one.
Thank you, Jim. I'll go in reverse order as well. I love the more public comment. I agree. I think the more discourse, the better. It was super frustrating before joining this board to not be able to have a dialogue with trustees during meetings. The suggestion doesn't create a dialogue, but it's further in that direction while still keeping us on track, I think. And it's been even more frustrating to sit up here and not be able to respond to public comment when made and valid, and acknowledge good ideas and or correct misinformation. So I love the public comment idea. It feels so awkward to call everybody title, last name. I've never liked that. I thought it looked weird before. It sounded weird. And I was hoping this was something we could address really early, but we never had a board workshop. So I'm glad that we finally are making time to do that now. So I'm definitely in favor of first names. Unless someone would prefer the title, and then I'm happy to call them by the title as well. For the Pledge of Allegiance. Although it's been said that I was reactive in this decision, a lot of thought and thoughtfulness went into it. But I made a huge mistake by not appreciating how big of an issue this is for many. And just because I had the authority to make the decision doesn't mean I should have made the decision. This discussion should have taken place at the last meeting. And I apologize for that. I was not appreciating that the scope of that decision would have a national audience. I was thinking about it within, the context of this room and this community. And I did a lot of asking around before I did make the decision in terms of how people felt about it. I polled my father, who's a veteran. I polled many friends of mine who are veterans, and they didn't feel terribly strongly about it. I considered that our county commissioner meeting doesn't start with it. Our school board meetings don't start with it. Our historical society meetings don't start with it. Our chamber of commerce meetings don't start with it. None of our committee meetings start with it. And so it seemed like we were the only group that did it. And whether or not it currently unites us, I know the intention in including in our meetings was to unite us. But there was disagreement about it for the last couple of months. So my thinking at the time, without appreciating all the things that I've admitted were a mistake, is that my responsibility is to run a really productive meeting. At our very first meeting, I suggested that we replace it with Julian's idea and have, a Silverton code of conduct or a Silverton mission or something like that. And that was rejected at the time, 4-3, in order to keep the pledge. But at the time, we didn't have the harassment that was happening with the two of us that were sitting down. That seemed to be coming to a head relative to what we'd experienced so far. Relative to what we're experiencing now, it clearly was very minor compared to now. So another mistake. If I don't, keep stepping in it, I'm probably not trying enough new things to figure out how to best facilitate leadership in the community. So I will own that mistake as well. But in my view today, I think America is great. Silverton is great. There still is disagreement about the pledge. I really want our meetings to be productive. I'm nervous that having some of us sit and some of us stand will start every meeting on a negative foot. I would prefer to use Julian's idea, but I defer to the board in this discussion, and whatever the majority wants to do, I support. And I will, own whatever comes my way if I continue to sit and people don't like it. But that's there was no intentional statement about the substance of the pledge. So I apologize that people took it that way. And I also might as well clarify that when I said that people are out of order saying the pledge, it wasn't because of the substance of the comment. It was because we're supposed to have one person speaking at a time. And if we allow one group to talk during public comment, we're not allowed in any way to moderate content, which means that going forward, we have to allow every group, regardless of the content, to talk. And that's why they were out of order. So that's what I have to say. So to recap, it sounds like everyone on board with public comment and we can dial in the details. Everyone's on board with first name basis, and it sounds like we're leaning towards reinstating Pledge of Allegiance.
I kind of want to add something to that.
Sure.
Another consideration for me, and because I'm nervous as well, that while the intent is what Trustee Harper was referring to about creating unity and reminding us that we are a part of a common entity and we seek common goals, like the practical reality of that is that it's visually looks very divisive, and we don't project unity, even though that's the spirit of it. And I can't solve that problem. And none of us at this table can solve that problem. I hear the staff concerns about some of the heat that they've been taking and our local citizens. And I'm trying to figure out how to weigh the ramifications of what we decide to do here as local elected leaders on how that affects other people. And I think that's significant.
I believe we should have a motion of some type. What do we think? I mean, it is a small group in this room, but I defer to the board on how you want to go.
What are we referring to?
Julian's raising his hand, but we've closed public comment and we don't have an agenda that lists public comments for certain items.
I'm okay hearing from him since we brought his name up multiple times during this, but
I'll come up here so everybody can see too. I am happy to teach and or sing the Silverton song for all of you here right now, if you are so inclined.
For these are my mountains.
And this is my glen.
I can't sing publicly.
Happy to do that. And I think that is the spirit of our community, is that the one thing I know for certain that every single person in this community holds dear to their heart in the same way they hold their family dear to their heart is this town. I don't think that is an issue that could be divisive for any single one of us sitting here present today. I think that every single one of us knows for certain the love that we hold for our mountains and the people that we love inside of these mountains is true and pure. That's all.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Doug?
We're
we're down the path. So go ahead, Dr. Bob.
Slippery slope.
We, the community, look at you, and I'm not meaning this as a sexist remark, but as our town fathers, as our leaders. And when we think about the Pledge of Allegiance, it's a pledge of allegiance to the flag. And I think of the people that have died for us. It says in the Pearl Harbor Memorial, lest they not be forgotten. That's used in other places, but we shouldn't be forgetting the people that built this country. And ignoring that is hurtful to a lot of people. It's hurtful. And I think that when we decide to take a seat, we're sort of ignoring that feeling that so many people have, that we do not forget the soldiers of Tripoli that fought to hold the flag. Not the battleships that sunk at Pearl Harbor, but the horrible deaths that occurred. We shouldn't be forgetting those people. This hits a lot of souls, or a lot of people down close to the heart. And so I, for one, disagree with leaving off the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag that represents us and the people that have died for us. Sometimes I wonder if we're abusing what we call the First Amendment. Are we using it in its proper context that it was meant to be used for? I don't know. I do know that if we have a grievance, it says in the First Amendment that we should be able to bring it to the government, you, the government, or the government of this town. Well, I'm rambling now, but I feel strongly that a lot of people also share the feeling of that our leaders should lead, and our leaders should promote this allegiance in our lives and in our work.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me say something.
I'll throw a motion out there. If we're ready. I'd make a motion that we reinstate the pledge at 6:50 before the call to order and roll call, and put the Silverton song on hold for the time being, maybe for future discussion, because it is a fantastic song. I guess that's my whole motion.
I thought you said 6:58.
I wrote down 6:55.
Sure, prior to call to order and roll call, sometime between 6:50 and 7. Whoever wants to lead it can choose the exact time. Feel like that's a fair compromise.
So we all know that we either need a second or to move on. So what say this board? Or an alternate motion?
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we go to the informal names. We allow structured public comment at correct times that will be delineated by staff, and that we start our meetings at 7 PM with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Second.
Any further discussion?
To clarify, are you saying start our meetings? That would be prior to the call to order and roll call?
I'm not sure how exactly, what did we have it before? We did,
We had call to order, roll call, and then the pledge.
pledge. So let's do the pledge first, then let's do the order, and then we'll do or call to order and then roll call. Put it in reverse order.
Just confirm, Jim, your second.
Yes, sir. At 7 o'clock. When our meetings start.
Any further discussion?
If there's continued harassment or heckling or disruption for people who choose to sit, can we revisit this again?
I think that was already established.
That was.
Yeah, I said that I would, if that continues to happen and we're not able to control it, then I would be happy to make some sort of, bring that onto the agenda and we can revisit this. I really think that we should be able to say the pledge, people should be able to honor it in whichever way they see fit, and we should be able to move on and get work done.
Yep.
I'm really excited to move on to the issues on the agenda, and I think that we have a lot of good that we can do. And yeah, if that continues, I will be happy to either put it on the agenda or however we need to go about it to then revisit this. And I think after all the publicity that we've got and how divisive it's gotten, I'm really hoping that people realize how, not only how important it is to one side, but how it's important to the people that also choose to not stand for it. And maybe this has hopefully brought some clarity to both sides, and this is my hope. And if not, I'm happy to bring it up and revisit it. So yes.
Okay.
Kelly, roll call, please.
Trustee Barella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yes.
trustee Ryder,
Yes.
trustee Zerma,
I'm going to recuse myself on this one.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Thank you for a very civil and good discussion. Next, we move on to our exciting agenda topics of consideration to approve purchasing policy.
I'm glad you guys are excited about it because
I
I'm,
am amazingly excited about it.
This is great.
So comprehensive. Thank you.
Yeah.
so as a follow-up to our discussion on our June 14th meeting, I have drafted this purchasing policy and had staff review it for overlap with current practices. In your packet, you'll find the draft for your consideration to approve. And the policy addresses spending limits to address the concerns on increasing our credit card limit and giving department heads credit cards.
Did anyone see any issues in the review of the policy?
No, I thought it was amazing and thank you. I'm so glad to have something this in place. It gives the oversight that's needed and it gives the freedom that's needed as well for staff.
Very well thought out.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and I feel like we went over the details of it in the previous meeting. We just needed this written up for us. And so, yeah, that's, I think, didn't see anything wrong with it. I'd be happy to move forward unless there's any more discussion. Sorry, I saw you.
No, yeah, I just had a really quick, this is comprehensive and clear and thorough, and it sounds like it's been well put through staff eyes as well. My only question, and it doesn't really matter, I support this regardless. I just wondered if you had or if there exist any accompanying documents or forms that are associated with this that make the step-by-step clear.
Sure, we are developing a requisition form that I mentioned in the policy. So we're developing that on the back end right now.
Great, awesome.
Did this come from another model that was adapted, or is this a?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
The wheel.
Yeah. Utilizing my resources across the state, I was able to put this together.
Awesome. It looks awesome.
Mhm.
So are you looking for a motion to approve the purchase?
Yeah, we need to.
I am, yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the statement of policy and purchasing ethics for the town of Silverton purchasing and policy and procedures. Is that the right one? Sorry.
Second.
Page 1, what are we calling it? Town of
Silverton purchasing policy and procedures. Yeah, make a motion to approve that.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Morella?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Wyger?
Yes.
Trustee Zero?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Marty?
Yes.
Mayor Ferner?
Yes. All right, wastewater overview. Director sites, John, we'll go over what everyone's
Yeah.
preferences are at some point between now and the next meeting.
Good evening, trustees.
Evening.
I hope you all had a chance to look at the wastewater system report that I put in the packet tonight. It's 2.5 pages, about a page and a half too long by my reckoning, but I couldn't condense it anymore without leaving out things that may have raised more questions. It's a complex subject, as you know, if you've been following or if you read the report. I wrote this about a week ago, and in the ensuing week, the only thing that I would change is in the staff recommendations. Right now, I have recommended that the board review and discuss the options and the subject and consider rate increases, which that is not something that needs to be discussed in depth tonight. But the one change that I have is that I do have a recommendation that I think would be the best choice to make at this time. I'll take questions on the report, but I'll go over my recommendation first. We have an opportunity to purchase blowers at a price that's much lower than I had originally anticipated, just over $100,000. And I want you all to know that we have about a $3 million, give or take, wastewater project on deck. As you know, we have applications going into USDA soon. These blowers, this reviving our air system is a very small part of that project. It's mostly rehabilitating our sewer lines. That is important, but it's not urgent. The aeration is much more urgent from the perspective of making good wastewater to put into the stream and also keeping the odor down. And in light of the DOLA funds that are the ARP funds that Gloria can speak to a little bit more, it looks like we're going to get a couple of installments, but the first one is due imminently, and it's in the amount of a little over $80,000. We could easily cover the rest of the cost of these aerators with money that exists in the sewer fund. So my recommendation would be to go ahead and put these blowers in place as soon as we can, offset the cost with DOLA and the sewer fund, and start fixing our wastewater treatment right now. I think that we could probably get them installed within a month, but we've already made some big changes down there. We've overhauled a couple of our blowers, and we're running all of our blowers simultaneously. which is something that I don't like to do because we're pushing this equipment 24 hours a day. As I said in my report, it's about $2,500 a month in extra energy expenditures. We'll probably go down to potentially $1,500 a month total when we have the new blowers installed. We'll only need one blower instead of four. That's my recommendation. I'm sure you all might want to discuss this a little bit more. And if you have any questions for me about my recommendation or the report, we can start going over it at this time.
But you said imminently for the USDA, the American Rescue Plan funds. What is imminent?
Yes.
Sorry.
The application has been submitted and they said it could take up to 30 days, but when I talked to Patrick today, he said it should be in our bank account next week.
Okay. And
that's $83,322.
Okay, and it looks like that will cover the quote that John got. How long of a short-term fix or Band-Aid is this? Because in your report, you also said that we needed to upgrade to a several $1,000,000 plant at some point. So how long do you think that this sort of Band-Aid will last?
I would expect many years. Our existing system, again, was installed in '93. If you install brand new aerators, I could potentially see them going decades, and we may need them for decades. We may choose to do an add-on treatment system to our existing lagoons rather than replace the lagoons with a mechanical plant. And these are options that we're going to have to consider in the future and in our planning for that change. But I could foresee a new set of aerators lasting a couple of decades.
And then I guess finally, will EPA mandate that we move from lagoons to a mechanical plant? There was some verbiage in your recommendation that could happen.
No, that I don't know if where you picked that up in my report, but there's been no talk of that I've heard. Basically, what they're going to mandate is that we meet nutrient regulations.
Okay. Sorry.
And nutrients cannot be removed with a lagoon system alone. We would have to either switch to a mechanical plant or add on a small mechanical plant to our existing lagoons.
Okay, yeah, that's what I was reading. The standards for nutrient driven by nationwide EPA goals are unattainable for lagoon systems. I needed to read the total, sorry. Okay.
Right. And I should have been more clear that we do have an option other than going to a mechanical plant purely. We can go to an add-on system. And I believe that these regulations are driving development. Engineers are working on this because there are so many lagoon systems in the United States and in the state of Colorado, and it's going to have a huge impact on these communities that are all of a sudden expected to meet these regulations. So we're expecting technology to be driven, and there may be less expensive options 5 years from now than what we have right now. And that's another reason to try to bridge the gap without spending $5 million on a mechanical plant right now that we don't need right now. We want to just spend, it's great if we can spend $100,000 or $200,000 and make it for another 5 years and then be ready to meet the new regulations.
Thank you.
And I would also add, I might make a comment that if we want to get the ball rolling on this tonight, we do have fun. Well, I say tonight, but it's your all's decision after discussion. We have the funds available in the sewer fund right now to make this happen right now. We don't necessarily even have to wait a week for the ARP funds to show up in our bank account. And another thing that I would also add is that when we do submit an application to USDA or DOLA or any other funding partner, they like to see that we take responsibility for our own problems. That not only do we have matching funds to match for grants, but we have a serious problem, then we dig deep and we make the decision and we write a check and we fix the problem. That looks good on an application.
So then we could just ask for reimbursement rather than waiting for the money. That's what you're saying?
No,
We spend it now and then.
No, they wouldn't reimburse us for it. They would just look favorably upon the town's decision to take responsibility for a problem and fix it. But another thing that would be an advantage is it would be less debt service. So regardless of how we fund our wastewater project, we're going to have to take a loan. They're not just going to give us $3 million and say, here, fix your sewer system. They're going to give us, we hope that they will give us some grant money, but the rest will be a long-term, low interest rate loan that we will have to service annually, with a loan repayment. Well, if we spend $100,000 now, then that's $100,000 that we won't have to repay.
Yeah, and I guess I should have clarified, but what you were getting at the beginning of your comment was, we have the money in water and sewer right now, so we could actually just spend it right now and then use the ARP funds and to put that back into the sewer fund.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's correct. I misunderstood your question.
Yeah, no, and I didn't clarify it, but okay.
Is there any potential downside to doing this now? Anything that we won't be spending on that we may have before this issue arose? Like, are we tightening our belt in certain ways that are going to impact us in the near future?
Not with the ARP funds. If you decide to use those funds for this, it's not going to have a major impact on our existing wastewater budget or anything else that we're planning on doing in the near future. And that's one of the things that really influenced my decision. I mean, if you just said, well, we're going to take $100,000 out of the wastewater fund right now, then it would be a much harder thing for me to recommend. But since we have the DOLA funds coming in, it seems like a good way to spend it, because this is really our biggest infrastructure problem right now.
Awesome. And a quick follow-up is there any risk or meaningful delay if we just wait the week to receive the funds, just in case something happens in the next 7 or 8 days and those funds get postponed, so that we're not out of pocket this amount and then waiting for those funds to come through?
No, I think that's reasonable to wait another week. We've turned our treatment around, but it's not sustainable. If you go down to the lagoons or the Conoco at this point, it's not that bad. It's not nearly as bad as it was a month ago. But I don't have faith that by running that equipment 24/7, that it's going to last. There's the potential for equipment failure, and a lot of that equipment is old. So waiting a week, I think that's reasonable. But I still recommend the decision to move forward in the near future with this purchase. And if the money did fall through and we decided to wait for the USDA, that would be a reasonable decision as well. So it's up to discussion among the trustees.
Just to close my thought process, I would defer to you on how confident you are that we're going to get that money in a week. If you're like, it's 99%, I'd support immediate action. If it's, you had a call with Patrick and he was like, I think we're going to get it next week, maybe I'd say, let's wait the week, but that's my feeling. Molly?
How much do we have in the capital improvements fund for that specific?
For the sewer fund right now is 134,707. And that's as of May 31st, actually. So the last report.
So that is why we put into place all those capital improvement funds that everybody sees on their water bills nowadays. So we can plan ahead for all these projects. We've already utilized it for the water plant. So, I mean, that's why we did it. So If you're confident, I'm confident. I think we should move on it tonight personally. Because I think a lot of our residents have dealt with some pretty smelly issues, and they were very courteous and kind and didn't go too crazy and say really bad things, because they could have, because it's kind of a sore subject for anybody who lives at the south end of town. So that's my opinion. And Tyler took a lot of my questions, and John and I have discussed this before when we did our walkthrough. I would encourage all of you, if you have time, to do a walkthrough of the sewer plant. Just go with John down there one day and take a look, so that way you really have a working knowledge of what this all means and what it all does.
And I will tell you that I am confident that we will receive these funds.
So any further discussion, question, or is there a motion?
I think we should move tonight on this. If we know that the funds are coming and the citizens have elected us to make sure the water's coming into their house and the wastewater is going out, and we need to keep this up and running for our citizens.
So I'll make a motion. I'm not sure exactly how I should word it. Let me get to the right page. To accept the rental wastewater mixing equipment for the town of Silverton, Colorado, for the wastewater treatment plant. Does that sum it up well enough, John?
I think we're all on the same page.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Do we need to add any stipulation that when the ARP money comes in, it will be moved back into there, or?
Oh, good question.
Yeah, I would probably include that in your motion.
Okay, so that when the ARP money comes in from DOLA, it be put back into the capital improvements fund for the water treatment plant.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Morales?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Lager?
Yes.
Trustee Grandma?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Marty?
Yes.
Mayor Furman?
Yes. All right. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is consideration to approve staff restructure.
Sure. So I debated putting this memo in the agenda or in my staff report, but in being fully transparent on kind of where I'm at with this and being my first time kind of restructuring, I wanted to run it across the board first, so that you all know kind of, and knowing that the Director of Facilities, Parks and Recreation, this would be a significant increase to his pay and hopefully carrying that on to the 2022 budget. I am currently working on an organizational chart and looking at the employee handbook for restructuring as far as job descriptions go. My predecessors had started that process, so I'm just kind of picking up where they left off. But for right now, what I'm proposing is a Band-Aid until we get to the budget for 2022. But this helps recognize, first of all, the dedication and just increasing responsibilities of our Facilities, Parks and Rec Director, as well as helps fill a gap that we have since our Lisa Branner since she has left. So the gap that she left is huge, and it's a void. And I don't see that we're going to find anyone right away to fill that. And so I have Nathan, who is a very competent and very motivated to take on this position, as well as offering him that training and supplementing his role with contracted services for PR and marketing. So that's kind of just a little bit of my thought process going into this, but I'd welcome any questions or feedback. I'm not really sure if we need a motion on this one. I just really wanted to be transparent going forward.
I think as a point of order, your authority to staff, and unless you're asking for a budget adjustment of some type, I think you have full authority to do this, but
Yes.
definitely appreciate the transparency and request for feedback. So I think that discussion is totally fair, valid.
Well, I support Nathan 100%. I love the fact that this, trying to merge job titles, that's been needed for so long because the position had no job title. It had nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was created from thin air and then it just kind of rolled into whatever you were told to do. So I'm very glad that to see the structure put into place for this. And I have full confidence in Nathan moving forward with that. He's already proven himself to be amazing with the merging of what he's done for Kendall, what he's done for Moelis, and his IT skills are far above and beyond anything I could do. And he puts on good events. Anybody who showed up knows it was a very good event.
Yeah, thanks. I support your recommendations. I think I think this sounds really good. I really appreciated. I know Trustee Barella, I agree with Trustee Barella and her assessment of Nathan. I think also Todd has clearly done a lot for the community. And I think it was Anthony's letter in here that really outlined a lot of strong accomplishments. And so this is a good move. Thanks for putting it before us so clearly. Great.
Yeah, zero effect on the budget and people our people are taken care of, the ones that have really been working hard and yeah. And picking up the slack left by the slight shifts that continually happen. So it's good to see them rewarded and taken care of. Thanks.
Thank you for your support. Great. We can move on to the next item. I just wanted to keep that out there.
Perfect. No, thank you. The next item on our agenda is consideration to approve the Silverton Farmers Market application, which I didn't see in the packet, but I know that Kim's here.
It was in a different packet.
It was in an earlier packet.
Oh, boy.
I think.
I don't have the
in this
PDF.
packet.
I don't have it in front of me.
I don't have it in this
PDF
one, but I
packet.
thought we saw it at some point.
But we do have Kim Grant here to speak on behalf of the Silverton Farmers Market. You don't have to if you don't want to.
Come on, Kim, you always get up and say something.
I didn't come to say anything. I just came to sit and be quiet, but basically, there's a couple folks that want to do food trucks at the farmer's market, and I think that would be a great addition. I know that there are some people in the past that haven't been super psyched on that. So I haven't really approached, it's not my, I don't want to upset anybody in town, any business owners in that area of Columbine Park, but I don't want to go talking about it with other people and seeing if that's something that they'd be willing to work with me on until I got the permission from the town to do it. So I'm here to just see if you guys would allow to have food trucks in front of the Memorial Park. One would be the Eat a Bite truck, Brandy. And then there's a new woman, Allison, and she calls it the Diner, and it's a trailer that she tows behind her truck. It's and she sounds really great and has good food and stuff. And I know that that would bring a lot of people and business to the Blair Street business district, as the farmers market already does. I definitely have concerns because I'm not sure how much room there is there, because I don't want to block the front of the Eureka station and I don't want to block the front of the Hummingbird shop of Arlene's. And there's some handicap parking spots there. I haven't gotten out with my measuring tape yet to see if these trucks, my thought was that they would just pull parallel in between, right in front of Memorial Park, and then one by the handicap in front of where the bathrooms are, kind of, do you know what I mean? I don't know if they physically fit. It's an idea. I can't run with it until I get approval from you guys. So I'm just seeking that tonight. And if you guys think it's a great idea, then I can run with it. And if you don't think it's a good idea, then I won't run with it. I'm not here to like cause any issues. Yes, Mom.
So would a better compromise be for each of them to trade off? One do one week, one do the next week?
Yeah, I thought about
That way you don't have the overcrowding.
Yeah,
Space.
that is a great option. I do know that I don't feel comfortable speaking for anybody else, but in the past, I know that it's been important to Brandy to make it every week there for her, just for her financial well-being. Allison has mentioned that she's wants to come every other week because she's not quite sure how it's going to work for her. The other thing that her and I have talked about is she's totally happy to just do a tent and a booth. It'll limit her amount of food that she can offer and the types of products that she can offer, and takes away from kind of like the food truck feel of it all. But that's a total option too, and she's really flexible and she's happy to do whatever works for everybody. The other thing too, that in the past, Brandy has pulled in the alley behind by the, you guys were shaking my head. I think you know what I'm talking about. She pulled in on that little side lot and that worked out pretty good. I felt like sometimes she didn't get as much, I feel like she could be busier and she could make more food and be more visible if she were on the street. And I think that'd be better for her. And I think it'd be better for the people in town that don't see the small amount of signage that I have up to see a food truck and be like, oh, what's going on over here? And it will just bring more people to the market in general. And it is my personal feeling that there is enough slices of pie for everyone in town, that just because there's a food truck there, I don't believe that it will take away from business from another restaurant. I firmly believe that it will actually just bring more business to the existing restaurants, but that's neither here nor there. That's if the certain restaurants in the area are into it and are willing to compromise with me, then I'm going to go for it. But if you guys give permission and it makes somebody unhappy in that neighborhood, then I'm not going to do it. So, I'm just here to make things better. I'm not trying to like make it difficult for people or upset anybody by any means. So, yeah, the every other week thing could be great. I think if that were the solution that we came up with, I have a feeling that Allison would be happy to just do a booth and let Brandy be in the front, but that would be my recommendation if that was the stipulation that we came up with here tonight.
Well, all I can say is I love the farmer's market. I have been missing my flowers every week.
Well, they will be coming
And
next week.
I'm fully in support of pretty much, I mean, if you've really thought this out, I mean, it sounds like you have taken all the neighbors into consideration, and that's kind of what we need to make sure nobody gets upset about this. And Lord knows we need more restaurants open, please.
I know you guys are getting so busy, so.
It is insane. Because we don't have enough people and we don't have enough places to push them to. And we do really need, oh my God, my staff would be happy. So, yeah. I know that they buy a vendor's license. You have to buy a vendor's license.
I'm sorry, I got distracted when the police start talking. I get scared. I'm all, whoa. Sorry, what did you say, Molly?
Each individual purchases a vendor's license, correct?
Yes.
So that's already on the town books, and it's what, is it 50 for a year? I heard 50 for a year, something like that.
It's 50 for a year for the vendors, yeah. That gets paid to the town. And the 501c3 farmers market gets a share. I add some money on top of that, and the nonprofit keeps that money. But yeah, the town makes $50 for the whole season if they sign up for the whole market per vendor, so.
Yeah. I think it's a wonderful thing. Thank you, Kimmy.
Thank you.
So the setup would be pretty similar to what the Summer Sounds had in terms of how the food truck would be oriented relative to the park, but it would be probably less work for town because we wouldn't have any alcohol, so we wouldn't need to do all the gating and things like that. And so the town's on board with whatever that would entail.
Yeah, I can't say 100% yes, because I haven't seen the food truck parked. I went to a Summer Sounds and I didn't see the food, she wasn't at that one or something. But yeah, parking parallel as opposed to like this, parking parallel, she'd be right there. The town wouldn't have to do any work at all. Yes, no alcohol, no barricades. The town wouldn't have to do any work. I would just need special permission from you guys to actually park a truck there and take up parking spots. And to be totally clear, not sure if that includes allowing them to park there the night before in the case of Allison, the food trailer, because she'd be coming from Durango. And I don't really know how that would work I'm not really sure. Would I be able to like close the street so no one would park there? That's the part I'm not sure about.
So if I may just jump in here. We do have a public right-of-way closure permit application. We will have to get the secondary one for the second food truck just marked in there. The closure times written on the application was 8 a.m. to noon. If there is just one food truck parking there, typically they don't have any restaurants open in front of the Hummingbird, so we can do a temporary parking and allow them to move into place the morning of. That way it doesn't obstruct any of the Eureka stations parking for their clientele. But Kim Grant, I do commend her. She has turned in all of her paperwork. She has gone over the due diligence for this application to bring this wonderful event back to the town of Silverton. Thank you, Kim. You're amazing. But if the board does have any conditions that they would like to impose upon this event, we'll be more than happy to get those met for you.
When would be the first farmer's market?
Starts Tuesday, July 6th.
Cool.
Runs every Tuesday in July, August, and September. Namaste.
Thanks, Kim. So we did not have the application in our packet, but Gloria sent it to us just now. If anyone needs to quickly see it in order to make a decision. The reason I was asking about the first one is it sounds like we can't table it to review the application based on when the first one is, because it's before our next meeting. So would everyone like a moment to review, or would someone like to make a motion, or?
Give me just a sec.
Sure.
I'll just note that I'm going to be recusing myself from this vote. I've vended at the farmer's market in the past, and although I'm not currently signed up for this year, there may be a chance I'll vend there this year as well, so.
I guess I'd be in that same boat. Selling stuff for the school.
Oh, is the school finally gonna get their vegetables out there?
We've been there the last 2 years. Sell out quickly.
Cool.
Huh? Okay, Kim, you never get like clued me in, like, like hurry up. Most of the time she's like, I barely have something for you. You got here too early. Okay. And Sursa. Beautiful. All right. So I have a quick question. Is it the conclusion of the board that we want to allow the trucks?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion to accept the notice of intent to conduct, sorry, I have my glasses, a special event or civic function within the incorporated towns of Silverton for the Silverton Farmers Market, including the use of the food trucks.
And should we change the estimated number of vehicles from 1 to 2?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, changing the estimated number of vehicles from 1 to 2. Second. I can see it from here, but I can't see it up there. Just wait.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Morella,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Emphatic yes.
trustee Wager,
Recused.
trustee Burma,
Recuse.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Marty,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Hey, text me.
Okay.
Tell me
Also,
when it's coming in.
where can I buy one of those hats?
Oh, so there's 4 different colors, 4 different styles. They'll be for sale in the market.
Perfect.
One of the cool new retro t-shirts. And yes, Nathan, I got rainbows and stripes and pink. Thanks you guys for everything you do. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you.
Have a great night. Thank you so much.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda items. Is there anything in there that needs to be pulled out? Trustee Barilla.
Not pulled out, but I do have one question. What was the keys for SNS? Thought we had that situation all kind of resolved. Do we have to rekey everything again?
SNS lock.
Yeah, SNS lock.
John.
Hello, I'm here. The SNS lock was for some new padlocks and to install a panic bar on our chlorine room up at the water plant. We wanted to put good quality hardware on there if a guy's working in there and he needs to get out in a hurry. And I felt that that was a appropriate way to spend that money, but that's what it was mainly for, was for the panic bar. And then I bought a bunch of extra padlocks because we were running low on padlocks.
Wonderful, thank you, because the description said keys, and normally I can figure everything out because I have to sign the checks, but that one kind of threw me.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but that's what it was for. Yeah.
I just want to clarify something on page 43 in the minutes of our meeting on, well, it's a long one. I believe June 14th, which I believe was just an honest miscommunication, but it was during the discussion between Jim and myself about the Anisi law firm, just saying that the Trains relationship was passed. And I know that I opened the conversation saying it was the family's relationship and then clarified to the Train, and you said it was passed. But the cover letter says that they're currently counsel for the Train. And so I just wanted to clarify that in the minutes.
What you gotta do.
Thanks.
And then I had a minute clarification too, just on page 38. For Trustee Varela clarified that this was a unilateral decision. I think that would be more accurately stated as with the verb stated. Trustee Varela stated that this was a unilateral decision.
Anything else on the consent agenda, or do I hear a motion to approve as revised?
I'll make the motion to approve as revised.
I can second it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barilla,
Yes.
trustee Harper,
Yep.
trustee Wager,
Yes.
trustee Burma,
Yes.
trustee George,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Marty,
Yes.
Mayor Furman.
Yes. Staff reports.
Yeah, so I would like to add some stuff to the staff reports. First and formally, I would like to thank Anthony Edwards for his time as the interim town manager and recognize his contributions to the town. I would also like to recognize the hard work that all the staff, the town staff continues to exert to keep the town operational. They are invaluable and irreplaceable. So regarding the lumber mill memo that I put in there, there's actually an update to that. The lumber mill has ceased operations of the mill and is moving the inventory to their new location. They will be off the premise by July 30th. So this is an update to what is in your packet currently. So does anyone have any questions on that one? Okay, and then I have submitted a request for our ARP funding, so we discussed that earlier. And then this morning, we were awarded $10,000 to go towards our marketing expenses for Summer Sounds, Kendall Mountain Ski Area, and special events facility rentals by the San Juan County Tourism Board.
Awesome.
Those are my updates.
Excellent. If anyone did dive really deep into this packet, I wanted to also just flag that we were considering a stage 2 fire ban, but it sounds like that we're not currently considering that at this, and we're comfortable sticking with the stage 1.
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Keep it raining.
Any other questions or comments relating to staff reports?
Todd had in his report about Kendall. What is being, it just says like, what was it? Something about, has he come up with a definitive plan yet? Did we have that done? What kind of weddings are going on there? What kind of time frame are we looking at?
You mean the deck?
Yeah, the deck.
The renderings and quotes.
Yeah, but a quote, I mean, what kind of time frame are we looking at? Because that's really critical. Nathan, do you know how many bookings we have for weddings out there right now?
So currently I can pull up the information. It will just take a moment for me. I'm also going to be promoting Director Bo.
I already did.
Thank you. But give me just a moment and I will have that pulled up for us. I do know we have the, and I always say it incorrectly, please forgive me, the Aravaipa running, as well as the Hard Rocker holidays coming up. Weddings will be mainly in the fall. We are pretty booked up for the month of July for Kendall and other parks. But as of right now, we are still taking bookings mainly for the fall.
So now that Todd is on, can you give us kind of an overview of how soon we can expect the quotes to come back in and the work to be completed?
Sure. So we've actually had some issues getting the project bid. It's been very difficult to get contractors to bid projects or find somebody. Our original intention was to complete that project over the course of this summer. It's looking now like it would be later in the fall. Bill and I are working on getting renderings and pricing and all that to bring to the board. We just haven't been able to get that stuff ready as quickly as we'd like.
Is it in at least usable condition right now for these weddings, or is it?
It is
completely dilapidated?
It's a pretty urgent project. I do think that it should be okay safety wise. The main thing driving this is our safety concerns. But we've been using it. There is probably some liability there. I think we'll be able to accommodate the weddings that we currently have on the books, and we're going to try and make it as minimally impactful on rentals and weddings and such as we can. So ideally, we'd like to do this as a shoulder season project, and I'm optimistic we may be able to do this, in October, September, October, to minimize that impact.
And I will be working with Director Bove to ensure that we do have blackout dates for whenever construction will be happening.
Thank you.
We've been prioritizing the RFP for Columbine Park, and once that's out, we'll probably turn our focus back towards Kendall.
Thank you. Anything else from anyone on staff reports?
Yes. I just put a memo in the staff reports about Clear Networks, which is an internet service provider that is doing research on business in Silverton. And they had approached us and asked if we would consider letting them use town property for a wireless station. Currently, Forethought has a wireless station up at the water plant. I think that they're just doing research right now. I don't think they need a formal decision, but they would like us to get back with them and let them know if it's a good possibility, if it's something we're okay with, or something that we're really not okay with. So I'm not sure how much discussion you want to put into that right now, but I would like to get back with them this week and let them know what we think about that. Again, another internet service provider wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, but I'll let you guys discuss it as you will.
And then the next item that you have in there, John, is the authorization for emergency purchase for a replacement valve for the water treatment plant. And it exceeds the normal purchasing of $5,000, not by much. So.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's something that we need to make a motion on.
And that was.
Well, that money's already spent.
That was an emergency purchase.
Yeah, I was notifying the board that I made the decision to make that purchase because I felt that it was an emergency. It wasn't something to make a motion on. It was informational only.
Yeah, but we should still make a motion to approve the purchase, so it's on there, because it's over the exceeded limit.
Sure.
It looks like Clear Networks is in many of our neighboring communities. Has there been any conversation to find out what their reputation is in those communities? Not yet. Okay, not yet. I mean, so it looks like they're in Montrose, Delta, Norwood, Redville, Ridgeway, Log Hill, Ouray, Olathe, Kelowna, and Telluride. So it seems like we should poll them to see if their contributions to the community have been positive. Is the service decent? I'd be supportive if it is.
Okay.
Yeah, also if we allow one provider to something up on our property, we should probably
allow
be
another.
fair and make sure that the other people are allowed, as long as it's not too, I don't know, big or unsightly, or I guess I'm not sure how large these things are, but if we have room, then.
So I don't hear any objections. So general direction to continue the conversation with Clear Networks and just confirm their reputation and experience in neighboring communities. And then would someone like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the emergency purchase of the valve replacement for $5,482 for the water treatment plant.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barella?
Yes.
Trustee Harper?
Yes.
Trustee Weaver?
Yes.
Trustee Greenwood?
Yes.
Trustee George?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Barney?
Yes.
Mayor Curran?
Yes. Well, to all the staff, thank you so very much. Some
Quick note,
progress.
I like the memos. They're really helpful and they're well structured and they're easy to read.
Excellent.
Just for clarification, I should report back to Clear Networks that the board would certainly consider that, but more discussion would be needed if they want to implement.
Right, correct.
Sounds good.
Is that correct? Does that sound reasonable?
Correct.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, committee reports. Have there been any, I know that we're kind of transitioning, getting our feet underneath us and have been overwhelmed with a lot of things. Have there been any committee meetings? Okay. Even like planning commission?
Planning commission, past Tuesday.
Jim? Sure.
You want to take that one?
You can take it.
Major discussion on vacation rental across from the library. Really what it came down to is we really don't have the authority to not allow vacation rental. Even if there was plenty of neighbor negative comment. Most of the neighbors were against it, but it's just not enough. There's not enough teeth in the ordinance for us to really say no. Is that a good fair summary?
Absolutely it is.
I'm sorry, to which vacation rental?
I'm sorry?
To which vacation rental?
It was the brand new Singer vacation rental across the street from the library.
Okay, thanks.
And just summed it up perfectly.
Also a non-conforming structure, non-conforming lot, so that further complicates the issues. One of the major ones being parking.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, trustee reports.
I'll go. I took a ride along with Sheriff Bruce Conrad last week or a couple weeks ago. And it was really informative and valuable and a great kind of slice of life as a sheriff in our community. It's not an easy job. And also last week I went camping at Mullis Lake. And I've just been spending a lot of time at Mullis, I guess, this summer with kids and families visiting, and it is awesome. So smooth, it's so easy to make a reservation, and Jennifer and Brian are doing a really good job just with maintenance and upkeep, and it's great. Great experience.
My only relevant update is that I had an awesome time at Summer Sounds, and I'm really excited the town is doing that. And I appreciate everybody who put time and effort into that. It was really great. And I look forward to the next one.
Gonna say something as well. I know we got a huge audience here today compared to previous days, but I think it's still important to address. I think it's a super positive thing to address too, and just acknowledge the, over the way, it's not about one issue. Over the last 2 weeks, we've had a lot of racist, homophobic, and just super bigoted hate speech directed at either community members, board members, all sorts of people in this community. And it's, as a representative of this community, it's not something I would ever tolerate. And I think a lot of that has been perpetuated by people who don't live here. I think some of it has been perpetuated by people who do live here, which has been sad. And it's been even sadder to see other trustees perpetuate that type of hate in this community. And it's just really disheartening. But recognizing that people in this community have stood up and said things about that, and reiterated the fact that as a community, we are super welcoming, we are super inclusive. We welcome people of all political ideologies, of all races, all religions, all genders. And I think that message just needs to be there, that I recognize those people that did stand up for that. I think that's super important.
Okay, and I'd like to recognize our staff. I think we have a wonderful staff. And I thank them for everything they do. And I say it again, if people want to yell at us, that's us right here. The staff does not take, they should not take any responsibility for decisions made right here. They do the job, they work diligently, and I'm very proud that they work for the town of Silverton. Thank you, staff.
Anything else before we move on? All right, continued business, affordable housing.
And so this is on here. We just had our 2 work sessions in a row, and I really appreciate the hard work you all did. And now we have a lot of hard work on our end. I'm meeting with Willie Tukey in the morning to discuss further engagements at Anvil, and meeting with Beth as well to discuss those kind of quick policy fixes that we can look at for our next meeting coming up. So expect a big affordable housing agenda on our next meeting.
Great.
Awesome. All right. Anything else before you?
Oh, I just have one more public comment that I said I would read at the end.
Perfect. So we will now move to our, oh, yes, Kelly.
I was gonna say, going back to you and saying about summer sound, all what we did, I want to point out that we made $501.90 in donations, and we made $2,249 in sales.
Wow.
And we sold out all of the beer that we had. So we did a great job.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. It was a great event.
Cool, thank you. All right, at this time, we'll move to our closing public comment. For those who are here, well, if you'd like to speak, you're welcome to. Once we've gone through our in-person attendees, we'll move to our Zoom attendees.
I didn't come to talk. I'm not want to get involved in everything that everybody's doing. I just got to say, you guys knew the job was dangerous when you took it. As a public servant and an elected official, you set an example for the members of the community, and it's hard work. Carry on as best you can.
Thank you, Gary.
I'm gonna have to follow that up because when you guys took this job, I don't think you should have understood that it was dangerous. I think you should have understood it's difficult. It shouldn't be dangerous. And for those of you listening who are of a mind to make such vile comments and to prolong the mess that we're in, know that there's consequences. If you are crossing that line, you will at least be contacted, if not by us, but maybe by the FBI. We're not going to tolerate such vile behavior. So I commend you for doing your jobs, and it shouldn't be dangerous. Sorry.
Thank you, Sheriff Conrad.
All right, I'm going to read a public comment that I'm sorry, I forgot to read at the beginning, but now I'm going to read it to make up for that. Dear trustees, this letter is primarily for Mayor Shane. Should I say the name first?
Yeah.
Okay. This is for Margot Early. This letter is primarily for Shane Furman, trustee Jordan Birma, and trustee Jim Harper, and trustee Molly Barella. I know all of you to different degrees. I can say I like Jordan, Jim, Molly, and I don't know Shane well enough to say. I believe that all of you in your actions around the Pledge of Allegiance feel that you were doing what your conscience dictated, and that none of you wish to harm anyone in Silverton. Nonetheless, all of you have taken actions related to the issue, and because those actions, the lives of town hall staff, and you are their bosses, and by extension, everyone else in Silverton, have been made more precarious. This is not about one lunatic threatening to snipe Silvertonians. It's about a lot of lunatics. We all know that mass shootings are a thing. Are you also certain you're right and would stake someone else's life on that belief? Not a stranger, but someone you know, someone whose loved ones you know. I think you'd be surprised how little the average person in Silverton cares what you did, why you did what you did. This is what you did. Shane, you sat during the pledge, then canceled the public recitation of the pledge against the expressed wishes of the majority of the trustees. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get through this. Jordan, you sat during the pledge, and the school teacher won hopes for thoughtfulness, in this case towards those in Silverton who have lost one's limbs, orderly lives because of U.S. service in war. You and Shane have shown that it is legal to sit down during the Pledge of Allegiance, but here you can help your students try to see something from someone else's point of view. I'm not sure this is going to be in the 3-minute mark.
You've got about 1:40.
Students, for personal reasons, I'm uncomfortable saying the Pledge of Allegiance, and to refrain from doing so is the right of every U.S. citizen. I've chosen to hold public office and be in a public eye during town council meetings, and I don't want to wound people who, because they joined the military, were in a painful position of having to kill enemy combats, and I don't want to hurt people who lost loved ones serving beneath our flag. Though saying the words would be wrong for me, I think that standing up shows our community veterans that I care about them and my fellow citizens, that I want them to be united with them. Molly and Jim, for whatever reason, you were on Fox and Friends and talked about the Pledge of Allegiance. I wish you had not. Perhaps you wanted the country to understand that we are a diverse community who respects different opinions. Or maybe you had hoped to protect town staff. Unfortunately, the last did not happen. You chose to address a vast national audience on the subject of the mayor's recent actions, and consequently threats to the harassment of the town staff increased. A bad situation became worse. I think that if someone from Silverton was murdered by a so-called patriot offended by Shane's actions, you would suffer anguish and ask yourselves whether the results might have been different if you'd done something different. Molly, I heard you speak up for the town staff, but it appears other viewers did not. Intentions don't matter right now, and the national stage is nowhere to play out Silverton's grievances. We all saw January 6th that when it comes to patriotism, people can think it's okay to hurt other people. It's irresponsible to draw that kind of attention to our town. What I'm asking the 4 of you to do is to please apologize to the town staff and people of Silverton for actions which may have put members of our community in peril, or greater peril if you think it was all someone else's fault. I think those actions absolutely did endanger us, but even would be good to hear. I like Jordan and Shane to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance in spirit of humility, respect for those who you represent, and putting this community, its people first.
We're at time, but we don't have a large Zoom audience. We like to, she clearly took time to compose this. We cut it off or let it go.
Okay.
This is not the version that she sent out.
She sent a corrected one.
Yeah.
I got two.
This is the old one.
Okay, she sent this one to me today, so it might have been a mistake.
It's the most,
But you all have read it.
it's the most current one.
You want me to keep going? Or it's not the most current one?
No, I think you're almost done.
Yeah, because this new one that she sent is totally different.
Your lawmakers, the American
Well,
flag.
if this wasn't the one that she
Yeah.
intended, I think we should clarify.
Yeah.
Not-
Yeah, because the email that we all received says, sorry for this. I'm a perfectionist. This is what I would like Nate to read. Sincerely, Margot Early. And it came to us all yesterday at 1:42 PM.
Okay. This is the stuff I got from her today, so maybe there was a mistake. I know that.
Nice. At this,
Could I say something again, please?
you didn't use your full 3 minutes, so I think that'd be all right.
Okay, now that you're back to public meetings, could we reinstate sound systems so I can actually hear what you guys are saying to each other?
We can definitely look into it for sure.
And I can definitely project that. I
You're
apologize.
real hard to hear, and I hardly understand a word of what you just read. And sound would be good, please, for the audience.
We can look into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Any Zoom participants that would like to make public comment, please click the raise hand button and we'll promote you to panelist.
We do have Albert Hyrick. I am promoting to panelist. Albert, if you unmute, you have the floor.
Unmute. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. My name is Albert Hyrick. At the last work session, the mayor inappropriately opened the meeting with his personal opinion of the coverage by Fox News of his pledge suspension. What the mayor failed to mention was that the story also ran in the Durango Herald, New York Post, The Sun, the Daily Mail, MSN, Yahoo News, and many more local news outlets. I would like to respond to his opinion since no one was allowed when he voiced it. I personally believe that the mayor's actions regarding the pledge are a political move to intentionally divide the town even further than he and his lockstep fellow trustees already have. The more divided we are, the more we become one-issue citizens, and the more likely the mayor is to escape the upcoming recall. At this point, his main mission is to survive a recall, nothing else. I predicted the mayor's next move would be to play the victim. A recent opinion piece in the Aspen Times was clearly, in my observations, a planted piece by the mayor. It claimed that the Wyman was getting a flood of bad reviews by right-wingers. I couldn't find one, Mr. Mayor. Why would this opinion writer make up that claim? He also claimed that not one of the thousands of emails spewing hate towards you came from Colorado. Well, that's not true either, is it, Mr. Mayor? I actually got a visit from the sheriff regarding my anger-filled email. And how did the writer know how many emails were received and none were from Colorado? Did the town release the information or did he just imagine it? Of course not. I believe you spread the false information to gain pity and support. The whole article featured your talking points and encouraged the readers to stand behind you. Seems odd coming from Aspen, don't you think? The three of you who have rejected the pledge have done so over intellectual and hypocritical simplicities. Mr. Mayor, you don't want to stand because of some super secret pop culture reasoning. Well, don't. But how dare you tell the rest of us we can't? Trustee Birma, I have been informed that you won't recite the pledge due to the BLM movement. I think that is mighty noble of you. But I found it curious that you have virtually no Facebook friends of color or are a member of any justice movement. I can't find any record of you mentoring an underprivileged Black child or really doing anything, well, but sitting on your butt. It makes it hard to take you seriously and gives the impression you are simply parroting the mayor, as Mayor Pro Tem Barney has been repeatedly accused of. So while it may seem to you three from your perch of arrogance that your anti-American mindset is somewhat cutting edge, hip, politically helpful, and so millennial, dude, to most of us, we see three sad individuals who never were really taught about civics, true patriotism, or sacrifice. And as it has become painfully apparent these past few months, how to represent the citizens of a community. You three need to resign and allow the community to heal, come together, and move forward in a transparent and positive manner. For the record, I am not a Shane basher. I am an awful mayor basher. Good night.
Thank you. I will note that there were many pieces of misinformation in that. So, any other public comment, Nate?
We do have a Jim Manchu. I am promoting to panelist. Jim, if you unmute, you have the floor.
I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
We also have a Nancy Brockman that would like to speak. And Nancy, if you would unmute yourself, you have the floor.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Kim.
I wasn't going to talk, but then this great meeting ended a little negatively, so I thought I would say what I wanted to say. So I just want to tell you a quick story. All of us are made up of stories. I know that we all don't know each other's stories until we ask, and I know you didn't ask, but I have 3 minutes, so here I go. My boyfriend and I decided to be tourists in Silverton on Sunday, and we were pretty much the first people inside the jail. I mean, inside the museum that has the jail, which is an amazing place. We were awestruck by the magnitude of the stories told by the Historical Society, and we are very grateful, and we will be back and bring a lot of people there. It was so eye-opening that we've decided to create Tourist Tuesdays for us to allow ourselves to do a tourist activity each Tuesday. One of the stories told on the walls of the jail was about a day in August 1881 when Marshal Clayton Osbury was gunned down. In addition to that sad story, here's what the plaque read at the museum, and I'm quoting this. A mere 7 years after its founding, the youthful Silverton had entered into a period of ornery times, in quotes that was, that appeared to be getting worse. The relative peace of the animist country had been broken by numerous gunfights, murders, robbery, and cattle rustling. What might be today known as social media and the miscommunication superhighway, we are all fed at every outlet, including in-person encounters. We are not alone in that public discourse is broken. It's breaking down communities everywhere. I would just ask that the trustees and the residents and the tourists who are guests of this amazing place try for idealism. What if we were the people who could rise above the national divisive narrative? We can do hard things. Apparently, the ornery times of 1881 were cleared up, and maybe these are just more ornery times. Public discourse is actually debate. I wasn't a high school debater, but I do know that unskilled debaters attack the identity of the debaters, not the ideas. And that fires up the ego, and the ego will go to extremes on both sides to protect itself. Skilled debaters know that the way you actually reach people is that you find common ground. You separate ideas from identity, and that everyone is genuinely open to persuasion. People who disagree the most productively start by finding common ground. They identify the thing we can all agree on and go from there. Psychologists call this shared reality. We can change things for the better and move forward and solve some of the pressing issues of life here in Silverton by discussing and debating ideas rather than discussing identity. Let's open ourselves to the humility of uncertainty. Open up the possibility of being wrong. Let's all get some intellectual humility. Evaluate a broad range of evidence and debate from a place of shared reality. I think our common ground is that we love this place called Silverton. We have a song. I didn't even know that until tonight. That's our shared reality. And I would just ask the trustees and the Silvertonians and our visiting guests to start from there. And side note, it has to be really hard to have these meetings in public and these discussions. And I just imagine if corporations in this country and in this world had to do the same. I know that's kind of idealistic, but you know, what if they did? Anyway, thank you for everything that you guys are doing.
Thank you.
This time we have no other hands raised.
Thank you. At this time, we'll close public comment and adjourn this meeting. Have a great night, everyone.